it's Missy. It's 13 weeks after average day to last frost, and there's really not too much to do in the garden this week for me. With tomatoes, you do not want to cut leaves to hasten fruit ripening. There's kind of like a folklore in our area where if you have the tomatoes in the shade, they won't ripen. They need the sunshine to ripen. Don't cut the leaves off just to do that or see if they ripen faster. You want to keep your ripening fruit off the ground for melons. With me, I did the newspaper and straw mulch under them so they're not laying in the dirt. You could raise them up on a overturned clay pot like they did in the drawing there. And that does help you see the melons to make sure to keep an eye on them to see if they are ripening or they're ripe for picking. I don't have any clay pots at the moment and my stores are all out, otherwise I would have tried that. With strawberries, you want to apply a high nitrogen fertilizer to your plants, especially your new ones, so that way they can get a boost of growing before the winter season comes. And then of course I'm still harvesting beans and tomatoes, melons this week, so make sure that you keep an eye on your produce and harvest it as soon as it's ripe. And then as for the herbs, you can start an indoor herb garden. Now they say in a south or west facing window. I use an arrow garden. You've maybe seen that in other videos, and this is the perfect time to start like your basil, your parsley, thyme, oregano, sage, stuff that you're going to want to have for the holidays when you do your holiday cooking. So definitely start your indoor winter gardens this week. Now let's head out to the garden and I'll give you a tour of what it looks like out there. And I completely forgot about my celery. I think I did this like 3-4 weeks ago. So I'm going to cut this off finally and see if the celery did blanch at all, or if this even worked. So this was the aluminum foil. I need to somehow clip this green. There we go. Off, and then I'll take the foil away. And I have some earwigs crawling around, but we're okay there. Well, you know, it does look like it was blanching a little bit there. So I think it did kind of work. It just didn't work on these really outer ones, but it seemed to work on the inner ones. They look like a lighter whitish color. So it definitely took me more than a week. With the earwigs though crawling around and in the celery like that, I'm wondering how many aphids and pests I attracted because I had the aluminum foil around it. So earwigs are a predator bug in my area. And we saw them all over the corn because of the aphids and the spider mites. But they're a beneficial insect to have in the garden. I just don't like them in the house. So that was my celery experiment. This week I also kind of wanted to give you guys a tour of the garden, not because it's looking lush and full and all that, just to give you an idea of what gardens start to look like towards the end of the season. And you can see we've been moving some stuff around. I have some blueberry plants that were moved up here close to the gate, and that's because my dill needed to spread out and have some more room. The dill were actually crowding the blueberries, so we pulled the pots out of the way. Still have the compost pile back there with my canna lilies. We still have lots and lots and lots of tomatoes that hopefully will be ripening soon. The marigold border did go and fill out beautifully. We've had a lot of bees, especially bumblebees, on here. And then we have the melons, which should start to ripen soon, hopefully. I do have my herbs around here as well, such as my mint and my chives. My chives look a lot better now that I trimmed them. Over here, I had to trim back the basil quite a bit because they just got too big and bushy and were covering up the pathway we had here. I did start off with a 4-foot path and it has now turned into like a 1-foot wide path. I do have my squash. You can actually see some of the squash, those dark green spots in there. We have plenty of those coming along and may be able to start harvesting those soon. But yes, this says turning white because it's very, very wet and damp in the mornings, and we don't have the wind to dry it out. So that's mildew and on the leaves, but that's okay. We're coming close to the end of the season, so I'm not too concerned about it. This is where I planted the winter rye, and it's really, really dry in here. So I'm gonna have to go back in and water this. We haven't had the rain like I wanted to. But I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I believe it's starting to come. I've never grown winter rye before, especially in my garden. But something sprouted, and I'm thinking that's what it is. And it should, because it's been about a week since I've planted that. And then, of course, this week I am going to plant the winter rye in the pea patch, because the peas, for the most part, should have started to really decompose back into the ground. And here you can see, so I believe these are beefsteak tomatoes over here in the back. That was an heirloom variety. We have many tomatoes coming, but when it's an heirloom variety, they get kind of weird shaped. They're a little big. They like to split easily. I did have some plants fall down that I should have kept better tied up, but I actually I used all my tie stuff, so I gotta get some more. But they do get some weird shapes to them, and when they're yellow like that, I've been picking them and letting them ripen the rest of the way in the house, but they get like these weird circles on them, and I don't know. I've never grown heirloom tomatoes before, so it was my first shot at it. Over on this one, we have our Amish paste. These things are huge compared to aroma tomato and prolific. We picked most of those to make salsa this week, but we do have some more coming along the way. And then these are what the aromas look like. And again, all of these, the Amish paste, the aromas, are heirloom. And you can get Roma as a hybrid seed. And I've grown Romas as hybrids before, so these ones definitely have the more characteristic Roma tomato shape than the hybrid seeds I used to use. Up here, we're gonna have a hybrid tomato that this is gonna be called Homestead. And as you can see, they look a lot more uniform in shape and size than the beefsteak that you saw. That was an heirloom variety. So hybrid versus heirloom you're gonna have. And the plants are smaller too. Like the hybrid varieties are more contained. The heirloom varieties over here just go wild. And I can't keep up with them. I can't keep up with tying them. So I'm definitely gonna have to come up with a better solution to that. And then of course this is our one cherry tomato plant. And this was an heirloom variety as well. I can't remember, I think it was just called heirloom cherry tomato. I don't even think it really was a variety. That is one plant on that fence. And you can see it just got huge and very prolific. But this one turned out the best, but I think it also turned out the best because it has the most airflow being on the end. I do have my pole beans, and I have been harvesting them. They're kind of tucked away over in this corner, and they've actually been growing along the fence. And where you see those brown dead leaves up there, that's because that's an electric wire, and I think they kind of got shocked. Like there's like this dead line along the top there, so too much electricity flowing through them or something, I don't know. And so I come in here and I pick those. I got my compost pile right underneath me. And we had a lot of dill. This is like the most dill we've ever had, which is great. We're letting it dry. When we get dry heads such as this one, we've been cutting them and we're saving the seeds, dill seed, to use in cooking and canning. So we were very, very happy with the dill. And when you see a head like this that doesn't have much on it, that's from the caterpillars eating. And we had like 3-4 generations of those swallowtail caterpillars, which was quite unreal. We've never had that many caterpillars or different generations of caterpillars on dill before. I did bring in a head of dill one night, and the next morning caterpillars had hatched on the plant, and so I don't know if I canned any the night before or not. So you really have to watch that. My slow bolt lettuce is coming along slowly. It's ready to be picked this week. I had planted it a long time ago. It takes a long time to germinate, but I'm actually very happy with it. I did have a second planting in there because I didn't think the first planting was coming along, so that's why you see those smaller ones coming. But definitely we'll be trying that out. I think it would be a good one to plant in the spring when you know hot weather's coming. Now it's cooling off, so you really don't need to worry about it bolting. I do have my cabbage plant over here with my smaller cabbages that are coming along. I did have some clover worms get into the net and eat the leaves, as you can see. So I don't know if I'll be keeping those cabbages. They might have worms in them, but this net just is not wide enough to accommodate cabbage plants. And then over here I do have my buckwheat coming right along. It's really starting to shade out, get thick in spots, so that way it can, you know, keep the ground moist, mulched, and then also suppress a lot of those weeds, which I'm very happy about. In the back, I did have some cosmos along the back edge, and that's starting to bloom. This was really slow this year for growing. It was a lot faster last year, and I did have a marigold sneak in there. So, and then over here I have my bush beans, and they're coming along very nicely. I've been harvesting those. We finally got the plants to fill out and this patch, and it took a lot of perseverance, but we finally got beans, which we're very happy about. As you can see, I really need to keep up with my weeding. I have some patches here and there that need to get done. In the nets, I do have the romaine lettuce, and that's coming along nicely, especially since we've had this cooler weather again. And they're not quite ready to harvest, but they are getting a good size. I wonder if I can open up this flap so you can kind of see. There, maybe not. Nope, that isn't gonna work because they're really down in there. But you should be able to see them through the net coming along. I have my hot peppers. We've been harvesting those. Not too good a year for peppers. They kind of start rotting on the vine. I'm not sure why. There should be a few peppers over here, and I'll show you what I mean. Here we go. So they're starting to rot right here. You can see rot on the pepper. And I don't know if it's because it gets too wet in the morning and I don't have enough airflow. Because I did try to pack a lot into this garden this year. Maybe too much. Got the zinnias along the edge here. I also have my strawberries. And I did lose a plant over here where the zinnia is. So hopefully that will fill in the spring. And then I have more peppers. The celery, which I showed you earlier. And then of course our sweet bell peppers, which we've been picking and using. And that was the purple variety, the colored variety. It actually grows purple. I picked a pepper off of it and it was touching, and that's why it's green like that. So hopefully that will come out in color, and I do have some blooms coming, so I'm hoping that I get more peppers just because we haven't had that many this year. And I did pull up all the onions this week too, and they're just laying here drying because they were all done. So I just pull them up and let them lie, and the spot in the straw kind of helps provide a barrier between the soil and the onion itself. And then we're wrapping right around to the gate where I had the buckwheat planted again, where those beans were, helping to suppress the weeds there. And that is the garden. So basically this week, harvesting, keeping things weeded. I've tried to keep everything as weeded as best I can. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.